Today we'll begin with our operating system fundamentals, like what is an OS and all. You might be aware of it. Let's have a quick review of what is an operating system. Why are we choosing Linux here for DevOps? Let's have a look into this. So we'll be talking about an operating system, importance of Linux for DevOps, differences between virtualization and virtual machines, and the cloud intro. These are the topics we'll be discussing. So an operating system is a software that acts as an interface between a hardware and the user. Like whenever, like if you have some laptop, right? We need to install an operating system to use it, right? Or else to, let's say I want to open some paint window or else some Word document. You need to have some softwares installed. Means you should basically have the operating system. Right. So it works like an interface between computer hardware components and the user. Every computer software must have at least one operating system to run other applications. Like this operating system works like an interface between hardware and the applications. Applications like browsers, MS Office, Notepad, right? All of this to run and perform its tasks. So this operating system works like a bridge between the user and the hardware. Not only that, it helps in resource allocation, right? Also, it will help in multitasking. Let's say you work with multiple applications. So it will help us even do that by allocating the resources. If some applications are idle, it will share those resources to some other application and help us like utilize it better, right? So it helps in improving the performance. It handles multitasking. So all of this are handled by. When we say operating system does this, the actual component which help us is the kernel, right? Kernel is called the core component. It's the most important, the major component of an operating system. It's the one which does all of this multitasking or memory sharing, resources utilization, all of that would be taken care by this kernel component. It makes the communication between the hardware and the software possible. This is the one which is responsible for this communication. And again, different operating system uses different kernels. Like a Linux system uses monolithic kernel, which consumes more space, right? Windows uses microkernel, which takes less space, but it is less efficient. Whereas the kernel used in Linux, which is monolithic kernel, is more effective and efficient in performing all these tasks. And these are few more differences between Linux and Windows. Linux is an open source and free to use, whereas Windows is a licensed one, right? And also in Linux, file system names or all these is case sensitive, whereas that's not the case in Windows. Linux uses monolithic kernel, whereas Windows uses microkernel. Linux is more efficient operating system when compared with Windows because of its efficiency, because of its speed of utilization. And Linux uses forward slashes, whereas Windows uses backward slashes. Linux is highly secure as compared with Windows. Linux is less vulnerable for thefts and attacks. That's not the case with the Windows. Like performance is very high in Linux when compared with other operating systems like Windows. So these are the few differences. We'll see the actual differences and working when we start hands-on with it. Let me give you another idea of using. These are some of the reasons for going for Linux for DevOps, particularly security, the high performance. These two are the reasons. Another reason is majority of the DevOps tools are for Linux, means are developed or compatible with Linux. Later on, like versions were developed for Windows also for those tools, but still Linux has got, I mean, a majority of the tools still work only for Linux. So that's the reason for using Linux, right? So that's the need for us to go with Linux for sure. So we'll be learning Linux basics, the file system navigation and all before we go to any tool. So that's the reason we'll be going. Okay, fine. We want to learn Linux, but let's assume I have a Windows laptop or Mac laptop. How do we get to a Linux system? Should we buy another laptop or what should we do? That's where comes virtual machines into picture, isn't it? See here, virtualization uses software to create an abstraction layer over computer hardware that allows the hardware elements of a single computer, like process, memory, storage, divided into multiple virtual computers called as virtual machines. Right, you have a virtual machine which runs on your host machine. Means host machine means the main operating system. You may be having an operating system, right, like Windows or Mac, on which you can run another virtual machine. Virtual machine is nothing but which looks and works like a normal machine, which would be sharing the resources from the main machine, right? See here, this is your virtual machine. Imagine just so this is your laptop. Imagine this is your laptop. A marker is not coming up. So this is your laptop, right? And yeah, you are having some operating system, maybe Mac or Windows, let's say. So if you want to run a virtual machine on this, you need to have something called hypervisor. What is a hypervisor? If you have used some VMs, definitely you might be aware of this hypervisor. So what do you think is this hypervisor? Any idea?
It is something like ESXi host on that we installed. It manages virtual machines.
Yeah. Yeah. See, hypervisor is basically a software which will help you create a VM or which will help you launch a VM, right? Or else which will help you allocate resources to this VM,
Like
right?
virtual ones, Oracle VM.
Yeah. So this is a software. Hypervisor is a software which will help you create a virtual machines, launch them or allocate resources. Right. Some of the examples are Oracle VirtualBox, VMware, VM Workstation, right? All these comes under examples of hypervisor. Correct? So this is your hypervisor. This will help you allocate resources to your VMs or create them. See, here you can see VM, virtual machine. Virtual machine is nothing but it will have its own operating system, right? It will have its own operating system, which is called guest operating system, which sits above the host operating system, which is sitting above your main operating system on your laptop, right? So this is how a VM works. And but how does it use, means how does it get memory, CPU and all? Again, it get all the resources from your host only. From host, all these resources will be allocated to these VMs. Got it? So let's say you have got, let's suppose, okay, imagine you have got some 30 GB here. Out of it, maybe you allocated 10 GB to this VM, another 10 GB to this. 20 GB are already consumed, right? How many VMs you can run? You can run VMs, how many you can run depends on your resources. Like I have only 30. And also you should have some resources for the window for your main operating system processing as well. You cannot allocate all the 30 to the VMs. Am I correct? So how many VMs depends on how much resources you have, and if you put too many VMs, it may degrade the performance of your system. Too many VMs means like let's say you allocate all 29 GB, only 1 GB to your laptop. It may not be enough, right? So it may work drastically slow. So those are all the challenges we have. Got it? So yeah, so basically again, your system, you should allocate resources to them. That's one thing. Another thing is, means you should have a good laptop, or else the main operating system should have enough resources. Also, for some reasons, if this VMs got crashed or something went wrong, you are responsible for their backup, recovery, maintenance. Correct? These are all the challenges you have. Am I correct? Clear everyone, the challenges we have? So that's the problem with the virtual machines. Still, before talking about the next part, in virtual machines, there could be two types of architecture. Hosted architecture, bare metal architecture. This is for our personal usage, like for our learning purpose, something like that. For your own laptop, you may have this hardware operating system above that hypervisor. And this is for commercial purpose, like companies will be using this kind of architecture. Like they'll have a hardware and then a hypervisor. Above that, they can have directly VMs. They don't need to have a software. Right? This is how companies will have the infra. It's called bare metal architecture. And also they'll have huge hardware on which they will have hypervisor. That's called bare metal hypervisors. Example, ESXi. ESXi is an example, which is a bare metal hypervisor. It can be installed directly on the hardware without OS. ESXi. If anyone have worked with it, you might be aware of this, right? But yeah, this is how companies will use it, a commercial one. So meaning companies will have their own data center, right? This is how they'll have their own data centers, right? So to manage their backup again, so to create such a environment, either for personal usage or for commercial purpose, this would take lot of time, lot of effort. Maintenance is needed because see, even though you use these VMs for 2 hours per day, you still have to maintain for the entire day, right? So a separate team is needed, right? A separate admin team who will take care of it. For creation also, creating, setting up this infra will take a lot of time, right? Also expensive because if you want to run too many, right, you need to have a huge hardware with huge resources like huge CPU, memory resources. Am I correct? So it's expensive with respect to the like the scaling purpose, or else with respect to managing a separate team, it's costly. Also, you should take care of like a separate team should be taking care of their backup, right? If something goes wrong, some disasters, you should be taking care of backup. These are all the challenges you have with this kind of virtual machine architecture, either for personal usage or for commercial usage. Any questions in this part from anyone?
No.
Right. So for your learning purpose, you do face the same problem if you create a Linux virtual machine on your laptop for learning, right? You have to take care of its maintenance. If your laptop is having small, like a minimum resources, you can't do that. It may just degrade the entire performance. So these are all the challenges you have, isn't it? So to overcome this, what we do for our learning purpose, as well as companies, they are going for cloud. Companies, they are not managing their own data centers. Rather, they were going for something called cloud. Am I correct? Yeah. So companies are going for cloud. What is cloud? On-demand computing services delivered to us over the internet is called cloud, right? Like if you need some VMs, you can just go to the cloud console and get them. On-demand cloud computing service, self-service. You don't need a separate team for it. Anyone can create their own infra. Metered. You pay only for what you use. Let's say you used it for 2 hours. You pay only for 2 hours. You don't need to maintain, right? You don't have maintenance costs. You don't need to take care of their backup and recovery. Cloud will take care of it. No need of a separate team. These are all the advantages, right? So companies, rather than managing their own data centers, they were going for cloud. So in layman terms, cloud is nothing but you will rent some VMs from someone else's data centers. That's all. Company, let's say there is a company called X. It's not having its own data center, right? Rather, it's using some VMs which are running on AWS data center, which is nothing but cloud. AWS will have their own data center. Google Cloud means Google will have its own data center, and it was giving those VMs for the service. Understood? So this is what a cloud, any company like company A, B or whatever, they were not having their own data centers. Rather, they were having their infra on someone else's data center. This someone is nothing but cloud provider. And the data backup, recovery, maintenance, all of that will be taken care by cloud provider, which reduces this overhead on the companies. So that's where cloud comes in. And also you pay only for what you use. All the maintenance cost, all the resources cost was reduced drastically. Of course, you should pay if you have used certain resources, but it is metered. You pay only for what you use. It's not that you have to maintain them for 24 hours, but you use it only for 2 hours, but still you have to bear the burden for all the 24 hours. But that's not the case here. Hope you all got an understanding on what a cloud provider is, right? So there were so many clouds in the market, AWS, GCP, Azure, Linode, DigitalOcean, and so on, right? So many are there. And AWS is very widely used. Azure is also picking. And here I would say, like any other tool, you master one in a category. In cloud, you master one, that should be fine, right? You can work with any other cloud providers. Analogy concepts would be similar. Understood? Also, that's what companies are expecting. When we sit in the interview panel, we look for people who can be flexible enough to move on to any other cloud, because so many clouds are emerging in the market. We never know like which rules the market in a particular day. So that's how the market is. It's like every day we are having new tools, new clouds emerging. So we never know which rules the market. So we should be flexible enough to utilize anything. That's how we should be. So this is the graph from 2021. You could get always the latest ones. And yeah, that's a small intro about an operating system and why we need cloud, why we need Linux and why we were going for cloud. So instead of having your own VM, like on your laptop, right, we'll use some cloud resources so that you will also get exposure to cloud. That's the reason we created a cloud account in the last class, and we will be using those VMs for our learning. Any questions, you can feel free to put your queries. And can we proceed? A quick confirmation will help me.
Yes, Guru.
So we have created a free account, right, in the last class. And a question from Rahul, what's the difference between on-demand and spot instances, reserved instances on AWS cloud? Those are the different types of, I would say, the rental differences, I would say, like on-demand services or else reserved instances. There is a cost differences, right? The type of the instances you choose. Here I have already few instances. Let me create a new instance. I did created an instance earlier also, like I'm just creating now. So I'm choosing, see, always choose Amazon Linux 2 and T2 Micro. Keeper, I already have a keeper. I'm using existing keeper. Like I have already shown you how to connect and all, right? The concept behind this we will learn. So just choose the keeper. If you have already something existing, you can choose it and launch the instance. This is the one I'm going to use for our learning. I will connect to the instance. Here is my key file store. So let's get the connectivity string. Yeah, this is the one. Let's get the SH connection string. So now let's get into our Linux basics. We have learned some basic commands, right? In the last class, if you remember, the very basics we were looking into. Today, let's proceed to some other concepts. Simple copy, move commands we have seen, right? Today, let's talk about groups in Linux. Yeah. Yeah. So if you see here, let's talk about the user groups in Linux and also the directory structure. This root, right? This is called slash, or root is called the parent directory. Like in Windows, you have different disks, right? C drive, D drive and all. But here you'll have only one, that's called root, right? Under this, you'll have all the subpath. That's called parent or the root directory. And you are having a admin user or a super user called, the username is root user. On a Linux server, root user is the super user who will have all the permissions. Super admin, let's say. And for these Amazon Linux 2 instances particularly, there is one more user called EC2 user. That's a default user. See, you log in as EC2 user by default, right? These are the different users. And yeah, you may create any other user. Like in a team, in a group of people, there'll be different, let's say a DevOps team. There'll be different people and you have to give permissions, different user may need different permissions, right? This is how you can handle them. Right? Means you can create a user. Each user can be understood as a human user. Right? I may create some users like Tim and so on. Whenever you create a user, even these users also, whenever they are created, there is a directory called root home. Under this, a directory will be created with the same name of the user. Whenever a user is created, this will happen by default. This is called the home directory. Home directory means, let's say if EC2 user is logged in, he will be directly into his home directory and all the installations happened by this user will go into this. Similarly, Tim, when you switch to as Tim user or log in as Tim user, it's a default directory you will be landed into, and all the installations or whatever configurations he does goes into it. He will have complete permissions on this path. See here, I'm an EC2 user, logged in as an EC2 user, present working directory, PWD. See, we'll show the home directory. I'm in the home directory. Shortcut to home directory is tilde operator. Tilde, this one. CD tilde means you're already in the home directory. So that's a thing you have to understand. So whenever you create a user, his home directory will be created. Also, a user group by the same name will be created. When you talk about users, you can also talk about groups, right? Groups is nothing but group of users. Let's say 5 users need same permissions. So to allocate permissions to them easily, you can put them into the same group. So whenever you create a user, also a group with the same name will be created by default and this Tim will be added into this group. Means this becomes this primary group. Right, by default. That's his primary group. He will be into this group by default. Later on, you can add him into different groups and so on. Let me show you. See, I logged as an EC2 user. An EC2 user is not having any password. Right, particularly here on this Linux Amazon instances, EC2 user will not have any password. Suppose you want to set the password. This is the command. Okay, I'm just setting a password. Only root can specify, right? Only root can do that. So if you want to run it as a root user, add sudo. So now this command will be running as a root user privileges. Now you can set the password for EC2 user. Retype the password. Done. I have set the password. Now let's say I want to add some user, create some user. Add user command, Tom. See, again, permission denied. Only super user, admin with all the privileges can do this like root. So adding sudo. Yes, Tom is created. How do you know user is created? All the users can be seen under this file. This is a default file under etc. You have a file called password, right? You can open this file and see all the users. See, earlier only user 2 was there, some user ID, okay, the home path. Now Tom is created, some user ID is created and the Tom's home directory, right? So whenever this user is created, group might be created, isn't it? That's what we were talking about. So to see the group, there is another file called HC group. See, Tom is a group created and Tom will be into the Tom group. How do you know Tom, what are the groups Tom is into? You can check that with a command called groups Tom. It will show you what are all the groups Tom is added into. See, Tom is added into Tom group. Following everyone, these are all the very basics minimum which everyone should know. Means like let's say you logged in, you have to check permissions, you have to create files, copy the files, move the files, simple basic operations one should be knowing or one should be well versed with, right? Very basics which you get through practice. Every day if you log in and keep using it, you get used to them. So that's how you can check the user groups of Tom. But I'm logged in as EC2 user. How to check EC2 user groups? Simply groups will do. Groups means it will show the groups of the current user. If you want to see the groups of any other user, this is the command. So EC2 user is into EC2 user group, admin group, wheel group, system D general group. Means there are default system groups as well. Okay, so that's how you can see. I created a user. I can see him in the HC password. I can see his group in HC group and he was into Tom group. Let's say I want to create a separate group. Let's proceed with creating a group. Can I proceed? Go on. Everyone with me following? Thank you, Raja, for confirming. Appreciate response from everyone. So let me create a group. Sudo group add command will help you create a group. I'm creating a group called DevOps. You can see the groups as usual under HC group. Yes, DevOps group is created. Now, Now I want to do some modification. See, if I see, these are all simple operations. Okay, Tom is into Tom user group. Let's say I want to add Tom to DevOps group. Is that possible? Yes. User mod command. User mod -G means add him into DevOps group. Whom? Add whom? Tom. Add a Tom user to DevOps group. Now, if you see groups Tom, see he is removed from Tom's group and Tom group and added to DevOps group. Right? Tom is removed from Tom group and now added to DevOps group with this user mod -G command. -G add the group to this user. And Tom group, let's say I want to delete a Tom group. Group del command. Group del Tom. Tom group will be deleted. If you see here the list of groups, see Tom group is no more. Tom group is deleted. So if you see groups of Tom, he was into DevOps group. Okay. Let's suppose, okay, if you want to see groups of EC2 user, he was into some other default groups also. Now I want to do one more thing.
Preeti,
I
one more
want
thing.
to, yes.
So here we are deleting Tom from Tom's group. So is it possible to put Tom into both the groups?
That's what we are doing now.
Oh, sure.
Okay, this command will delete him from Tom group and add him into DevOps group. But let's say I want to keep this Tom user append the group, not replace the group, but append the group. Let's say I just want him to get added into admin group also. As of now, he was into DevOps group. But if I use simply -G, it will remove him from Tom's group and add this new group. But what I want is I want to append the groups to Tom, which is admin group. So if you see groups of Tom, see, now he was into both the groups. Got it? So yeah, that's how you can add a user into multiple groups. And are we good? Let's suppose if you just want to delete a user from a particular group, that is also possible with a G password minus D Tom from admin group. Delete Tom from admin group. Removing user Tom from admin group. So see here, he was removed from admin group. Simple operations. These commands you can memorize with the practice. But if you know the concept, you can also Google it. Those are the Linux basic commands which you can get from anywhere. But you should know the concept. See, always remember, you need not memorize the exact command. Okay, you have so many helps available nowadays. Exact commands no one will ask. Very rare exact command, but they expect you should know a command. You should know the basic command. Let's say you know G password. That's fine. Okay, minus D or Tom. This syntax you can adjust. Anyone you don't memorize all those hundreds, thousands of commands, right? With little exploration, you can get them easily. So try to practice it. Of course, if you are using it regularly, you automatically memorize them. Otherwise, little exploration will help you. Okay. So that's how you can check. And so you understood now users and groups, right? How to create a user, how to add this user to any other group, how to append multiple groups to the same user, or how to delete a user from a particular group. These are all the things we learned, right? But users and groups, or else particularly groups, makes more sense when we talk about file permissions, isn't it? Up there might be a particular file, okay, this user should have so and so permissions, another user should have so and so permissions. Let's say 5 users should have exact permission. So let's put them in a separate group. That's where it comes in, right? That's where it makes more sense. So how is that possible? How can you give permissions to a file? Let's see. I'm just going and creating a file in TMP folder. You may create anywhere, that's up to you. I'm creating as EC2 user. So as a EC2 user, I'm creating some file here. Also, I would create a folder. How to create a folder?
Empty directory.
Make directory. So done. See, I have a demo.txt file, demo folder created. ls will list all the files. ls minus l means long list will show the permissions of the files and folders. Okay, and then I'm trying to explain it. Okay, I'm just copying them. We'll discuss this. Now let us analyze this. These are the permissions of demo.txt. These are the permissions of the folder. So let us understand this. The first literal. Okay, first literal, this one. Okay, this hyphen indicates it's a file. Here, this hyphen indicates it's a folder or a directory, right? That's how you can identify whether it is a file or a folder. This is a file. So now, how about the next part? You have to take the next 3 literals as a group. You have to take 3 literals in one group. Here also. First group, second group, third group. So first group here is having, you can identify, right? This is the first group. First group is having read, write hyphen, means only read, write permissions. But what is this first group permissions? First group is nothing but, okay, first let me draw this. Okay. First group is nothing but permissions. It shows the permissions of owner of the file. Second group indicates owners group, permissions of owners group. Third indicates permissions of anyone else, others. Same is the case here. Owner, owners group, others. Right? So first tell me here owner is having what permissions? Owner means EC2 user who created it, read write. Owners group means owner's primary group. EC2 user group means whoever in the EC2 user group also has got read write. Anyone else who is not EC2 user, who is not in EC2 users group will have only read permissions. Understood the first set? File permissions, folder permissions. Read, write, execute for owner. Again, read, write, execute for anyone in the owner's primary group. Read, execute for others. Understood? Others. Owner's group. Owner permissions. Okay, now others means, okay, let me ask you a question. What are the permissions Tom have on this particular file demo.txt? Tom falls under which group? Owner, owners group or others? What are the permissions of Tom on this demo.txt?
Read permission.
Yeah. Read, right? Only read permissions. Tom can only read. So let us see how this works. Yeah, read permissions. Let's try to switch to Tom and see how this works. To switch to any user, you can use su command. Before that, let us also set some password to Tom. I am setting password to Tom. Now let us try to switch. su-username will help you switch. Oh, sorry. I did not give password. Okay. See, now you can see the prompt. I'm logged as a Tom. Let's go to that file which is under TMP. Okay. Demo.txt. Let's open it in a Vim editor. Do you see at the bottom? Read only. If Tom tries to put some content, it's giving warning, changing a read only. If I try to do escape :WQ exclamatory means if Tom is trying to save, it will not allow. Cannot open file for writing because Tom don't have permissions. Understood? Right? He cannot edit the file. He can have to just quit. Just simply Q exclamatory will quit without writing any content. If he sees the content, no content there, he cannot write. Because Tom is having only read permissions. Right? Let's suppose. Now I want to give Tom write permissions. Means I want to give Tom like whatever permissions he want to write. So how to do that? Tom cannot edit this file. So, okay, I want to change the file permissions. Only either Warner or root user can modify the permission. So switch back to EC2. I became EC2 user. So this file, sorry, those are hidden files. Let's see the normal files. ls, okay. So user is having read, I mean the third part, other part. So let us give permissions to other part. So chmod, other means O. O plus W means write permissions on demo.txt. See, now let's say, okay, let me, before running this, let me show you these permissions again. Yeah. So now I want to give permissions to Tom means there are two ways. One is Tom is under other group. You may change the other group permissions. So Tom will get the permission. Or else you can add Tom into EC2 user group. Isn't it? Understood the two methods. One thing is you can add a Tom to EC2 user group. EC2 user group is already having read write. Or else change the permissions of others. Which one is best, do you think? Which one we should do? Which is better?
Adding
Adding
to
to owner group.
Add Tom to owner group, right? So that only this Tom user permissions will be affected. If you change others group, everyone in the others group will get the permission. So let us do both. Okay, first, rather than adding, giving right permissions to other group, let us add this Tom to easy to user group. How to do that? Let's see the groups of Tom. I want to add him to other group, right? So minus AG we can use. Sudo user mod minus AG EC2 user. Tom. Now groups of Tom. So now let us try switch to Tom. Tom. Go to TMP folder. Try to edit demo.txt. See, now he can edit. Do you see the difference? Everyone, can you see the difference? We are able to save. Tom user can save the file. And yes. Understood? This is the best method. Add Tom to this group so that he will get the permissions. Let's say I will remove this. I'll remove this Tom from this group and we'll try adding permissions to other. How to do that? G password minus D Tom, remove Tom from, I'm removing him again from EC2 user. What is this? Okay, it's asking for password. Oh, I'm as Tom user. You can't do this with a Tom user. Tom is not, okay, let's switch back to EC2. As a EC2 user, you should do this, right? Not as a Tom user. Okay, removed. Now if you switch back as Tom, again he can't edit. You can give this way the path and open it directly. You don't need to go to the location to edit. See, read only again. Got the difference, everyone? Understood?
Yes, Preeti.
So, these are the things you can do. First, what we did, we appended him to EC2 user group. And then he got the permissions, but later on, if you want to remove, you can edit the file. What is the other way? Suppose I want to change the permissions of other group. Let's see that as well. Now, just let me confirm. Tom is not in EC2 user group, and we want him to have the permissions. So other group permissions I want to change. Only read permissions are there. If you want to change group permissions, chmod, O means other, plus means add, write permissions to this file. Now if you see, do you see here change happened? Read, write. Do you all notice that?
yes, please.
Okay. So that's how you can handle the permissions. Like you can add the group. Suppose you want to add permissions of owner. Owner is represented with W. Let's say I want to give execute permissions. Execute permissions we give for executables. Here it's a text file, but still I just want to show you plus X demo.txt. Now if you see the file permissions, you can see it became executable. See read write. And if you want to remove any permissions, chmod or else group also, let me give group plus X. G plus X means adding permissions to group. If you want to remove permissions of all, let's say, minus W. Let's say I want to remove write permissions for everyone. Simply W means for everyone means for owner, group, Others. Actually, it should minus R. New permissions are okay. I think change happened. Let's minus. Do you see that? One second. This wasn't changed. Minus W. Maybe any minimum one should have write permission, right? That's why it doesn't. But if you want to just change permissions for all, that's how you should do. Like, let's say I want to give plus X for all. See, that work. Minimum write permissions should be there, right? So it doesn't work, but yeah, that's how you can add permissions for all. X is not added here. Do you see? Okay, added across already. Similarly, if you want to add write for all plus W, or else owner is represented with U, G, O plus or minus, and read, write, execute. Simple, right? That's how you modify the permissions. Or else there is another way as well. These are all the different ways. Demo.txt. Okay, suppose if you want to change the permissions, group should have only read write. This is another way. G equal to read write hyphen. That is another way. Right? Whatever permissions you want. Owner should have, owner is you. Read write execute. Read write hyphen. That's all. That is a way. Right? That's a second method. Or else the most widely used method is the numeric method. What is this numeric method? If you go to your drive, Google Drive, I have given you here a snapshot of the numeric permission. See, no permission will be represented as 0. Execute permission means 1. Write permissions 2. Execute and write is 3. Read is 4. Read plus execute is 5 and so on. So following this chart, we can give the permissions. Like, again, chmod. 7 means, what is 7? Read, write, execute.
All the
Right?
three.
Full permission.
Full permission. So, first number is for owner. Second number is for group. Third one is for others. This is another way, most widely used method. So, full permissions for everyone. See? Read, write, execute, read, write. Suppose I want read, write only for owner. What should be the value for read, write? Only for owner.
6.
0, 0.
Others should have read, only read.
Okay, only read. Then 644.
Yeah. So, this is the most widely used. Okay? Or else I want first one should have read, right? Others should have, group should have read, right? Others should have only read like before. Right?
4. 6.
So this is the numeric method. First digit is for the first group, second digit for second group, third one for the third group corresponding. This is another way to you add the permissions. Now you remember for the PEM file when you downloaded, I have given chmod 400. Do you remember that? At that time, I told you just memorize, just executed the meaning or the concept we'll learn later. Can you recollect it?
Yeah.
Whenever we created this instance, we got the PEM file downloaded. And then it doesn't allow us, and I run the command called chmod 400, that PEM file name. So, what is the reason? We have done this chmod 400 and that PEM file, whatever it is, okay? Means your PEM file should have, only the owner should have read permissions. No one else should have any permissions because it's a secured file. It gave us an error, permissions are too open, means too much permissions were given. So it gave me error. So when I set this with 400, it worked. That's what we did in the previous class. Now you can relate to it. Also, we will learn the concept of PEM file that comes under a such concept, a Linux concept. We'll go through it. But is this much clear for all of you?
Yes,
So,
Rishi.
a little practice. Don't try to master them in a day. Like tonight, you can't just master it. Practice them. Every day, allocate 10 minutes for these Linux things, Linux commands, Linux concepts. That should be fine. Right? It's not something you can just gain in overnight. So allow some time. Make it a regular practice, particularly this environment. It's an environment you should get used to. That's how you will learn. And then after seeing this file permissions, now it makes more sense why we need users groups, and then file permissions make sense to it. And then we have something like simple file operators, sorry, and then we'll talk about a basic shell script. I think we can pick up from here in the next class. And we'll also see how do you install packages on Linux. So that will complete us with the Linux learning. From Wednesday, we shall start with Jenkins part. Any more questions from anyone? And Raja says, can I practice the things you taught us today in the VS Code terminal, or should I install a VM separately? No installation of VMs. You have to do them on your EC2 instance. In the last class, I have shown you creating this EC2 instance, right? Linux instance. From your local machine, you have to connect to this instance and do it. You can use Git bash if it is Windows, or else terminal if it is Mac. How to connect and all I have shown you, Raja. I think you can watch the recording and recollect the things. We are not doing them on our local. I'm running this means, do you think that I'm executing all of this on my local machine? Where are we executing it?
Easy to AWS.
On the EC2 instance, on the Linux EC2 instance, we connected to this instance and doing all the commands there.
Yeah. Okay.
You can do it in Git bash. Of course, see,
Yeah.
here in VS Code editor also you can launch Git bash. See, Git bash will open here, but it doesn't make any sense if you don't have files, right? VS Code editor, if we are working with some files, we use it. So you can just directly go to Git bash. We don't have any files to modify. We were working on an operating system. So you don't need VS Code editor. You can directly go to Git bash.
Okay.
So go for the hands-on, take up the quiz available on the website, like I'm showing you for Linux, right? And we'll pick up from here tomorrow. Thank you all. Have a good day. See you all tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
And you just stop your instance and restart it whenever you need it. Thank you all. Have
Thank
a
you. Cheers. Bye.